Captain Wu Taemin stood at the viewing window of the human ship as it approached Nexus Prime. The massive space station floated in the darkness like a jewel made of metal and light. It was bigger than Earth's moon and housed representatives from nearly 1,000 alien species. This was humanity's first official visit to the Galactic Council. "Captain, we're receiving docking instructions," said Lieutenant Park So-young from her station. She was the team's best expert on alien cultures and languages. Her job was to help humans understand the strange beings they were about to meet. "Follow their instructions exactly," Wu Taemin replied. He had spent months preparing for this moment. Earth's leaders had chosen him carefully. He was a former soldier who had become a diplomat. They hoped his military background would help him understand alien ways of thinking about power and territory. The docking process took 2 hours. The aliens were very careful about security. Human ships had to be scanned multiple times before they were allowed to attach to the station. When the airlock finally opened, Wu Taemin got his first close look at the beings who ruled the galaxy. The escort team consisted of 3 different species. The leader was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. Behind it walked a creature that looked like a walking tree with glowing fruit hanging from its branches. The third alien was small and round, covered in what looked like metal scales. "Welcome, beings of Terra," the blue-skinned leader said in perfect English. "I am Guide Veltrin. The Council is eager to meet with your kind." The walk through the station amazed the human team. Corridors stretched in all directions, filled with aliens of every possible shape and size. Some flew through the air on wings or with technology. Others slithered along the walls or floors. The diversity was incredible. But Wu Taemin noticed something odd. Despite all the different species, they all seemed to move in similar patterns. There was an order to everything that felt artificial. The council chamber was enormous. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform. Most of the seats were occupied by alien representatives. At the highest level sat 12 beings who clearly held more power than the others. These were the High Council members who made the important decisions. "Humans of Terra," a voice boomed through the chamber. The speaker was a creature made of what looked like living crystal. Light pulsed through its body as it spoke. "I am Councillor Velthar, Supreme Arbiter of this council. We have been watching your species for some time." Wu Taemin stepped forward and bowed slightly as his training had taught him. "Honorable council members, I am Captain Wu Taemin, representing the United Peoples of Earth. We come seeking friendship and knowledge." "Your intentions are noted," Velthar replied. "However, we have not summoned you here for negotiations. We have summoned you to deliver the terms of your integration into galactic civilization." Dr. Park So-young moved closer to her captain. She whispered urgently, "Sir, the translation devices are picking up undertones of command, not invitation." "This isn't going as planned." Velthar continued speaking. "Your species has reached the threshold of interstellar travel. This is a dangerous moment for any species. History shows us that young civilizations face 2 paths: peaceful integration under council guidance or destruction through their own violent nature." The crystal being's light grew brighter. "We offer you the protection of the council. Your planet will become a protected world. Your people will be relocated to designated areas where they can live safely. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your technological development will be guided by council experts to prevent dangerous advancement." Wu Taemin felt his heart sink. This was not the welcome they had expected. "Councillor Velthar, with respect, Earth's people value their independence. We had hoped to join the galactic community as equals, not as protected subjects." A sound like breaking glass echoed through the chamber. It took the humans a moment to realize it was laughter from dozens of different species. "Equals?" Velthar's voice carried what sounded like amusement. "Young species always believe they can be equals. This belief is part of what makes them dangerous. The Council has maintained peace in this galaxy for over 50,000 of your years. We have learned that independence leads to chaos, and chaos leads to war." Another council member spoke up. This one looked like a massive insect with rainbow-colored wings. "Your species shows all the warning signs. Rapid technological advancement. Multiple competing governments. A history of constant warfare. Individual desires placed above collective good. These traits have destroyed countless civilizations, but they don't have to destroy yours," Velthar added. "Accept our protection. Your people will live long, peaceful lives under council care. Your planet will be preserved. Your culture will be studied and honored. This is far more than most dangerous species receive. Dr. Park So-young stepped forward. What happens to species that refuse your protection? The chamber fell silent. The crystal being's light dimmed slightly. Such species typically destroy themselves within a few generations. The universe is harsh. Young civilizations lack the wisdom to survive without guidance. But what if they don't destroy themselves? Park So-young pressed. What if they continue to develop on their own? That has never happened, Velthar replied quickly. All species follow predictable patterns. Those who refuse council protection inevitably fall to war, resource depletion, or technological disasters. Wu Taimin exchanged glances with his team. There was something in the way the council members responded that felt wrong. Dr. Park So-young was asking good questions, and the aliens seemed uncomfortable. How long do we have to consider your offer? Wu Taimin asked. 30 standard days, Velthar announced. This is generous. Most species receive only 10 days. But we recognize that humans require more time to accept reality. The insect-like council member added, use this time wisely. Study your own history. See how independence has brought nothing but suffering to your people. The council offers peace. The meeting was declared over. The human delegation was escorted back to their ship, but they were not allowed to leave immediately. Council security requires a full inspection of your vessel, Guide Veltrin explained. This is standard procedure for all visiting ships. The inspection took 8 hours. Teams of aliens went through every part of the human ship, scanning and recording everything. They were particularly interested in the computer, systems and weapons. Dr. Park So-young noticed they also planted small devices in hidden locations throughout the ship. They're not just inspecting, she whispered to her captain. They're gathering intelligence and installing monitoring equipment. When the aliens finally left, Wu Taimin gathered his team in the ship's most secure conference room. Opinions? He asked. This isn't a negotiation, said Commander Yoon Hai-jin, the mission's security chief. It's a surrender demand disguised as protection. The language pattern suggests deception, Dr. Park So-young added. When I asked about species that refuse protection, their responses had markers indicating hidden information. They're not telling us everything about what happens to independent species. Lieutenant Lee Min-ho, the team's technical expert, had been quiet during the meeting. Now he spoke up. Captain, I managed to scan some of their technology during the inspection. Their systems are incredibly advanced, but they follow rigid patterns. Everything is designed for control and monitoring. What's our recommendation to Earth? Wu Taimin asked. The team looked at each other. Finally, Dr. Park So-young spoke. We need more information before Earth makes any decision. Something about this council doesn't add up. They claim to have maintained peace for 50,000 years, but peace through forced submission isn't really peace. And if Earth refuses? Commander Yoon asked. Then we better be ready for whatever really happens to species that say no. Wu Taimin replied grimly. As their ship departed Nexus Prime, none of the humans noticed the small council surveillance ship that began following them at a distance. The 30-day countdown had begun, but the council had no intention of waiting to see what humanity would decide. They had dealt with defiant species before, and they knew exactly how this story would end. The only question was whether humanity would surprise them. The journey back to Earth took 12 days. During that time, Dr. Park So-young spent every waking hour studying the data they had collected from Nexus Prime. She had managed to copy small portions of the Council's public databases during their visit. What she found made her stomach turn. Captain, you need to see this, she called from her workstation. Wu Taimin came over and looked at the screen. It showed a list of species names, dates, and status markers. What am I looking at? He asked. This is a partial record of species that have had first contact with the Council over the past 1,000 years, Park So-young explained. Look at the status column. Wu Taimin scanned the list. Most entries showed integrated or protected status, but a disturbing number showed self-terminated or resource depleted or simply extinct. How many species have gone extinct after refusing Council protection? He asked. In this sample? All of them, Park So-young replied. 100% of species that refused Council protection have died out within 50 years of first contact. Commander Yoon Hai-jin joined them at the workstation. That's impossible. No one has luck that bad. It's not luck, Park So-young said quietly. Look at these details. The Kethran people developed advanced energy weapons 2 years after refusing protection. Then their homeworld suffered a reactor accident that killed 90% of their population. The survivors accepted council protection. She scrolled to another entry. The Mulvari refused protection and began expanding to nearby star systems. 3 years later, a natural plague wiped out their colonies. The council helped the survivors relocate to a protected world. And the Zeftari developed faster-than-light communication that could bypass council monitoring systems. 6 months later, their star went supernova. The council's scientists said it was due to unstable stellar engineering experiments. Wu Taimin stared at the screen. You're saying the council is killing species that won't submit? I'm saying the pattern is too perfect to be natural, Park So-young replied. But I need more data to be sure. When they reached Earth, the human delegation was immediately taken to emergency meetings with world leaders. The news of the council's ultimatum had already leaked to the public, causing panic in some areas and angry demands for resistance in others. President Cho Eun-ji called a closed session with the delegation and Earth's top military leaders. What's your assessment? She asked Wu Taimin. The council is not what they appear to be, he replied. They claim to maintain peace, but Dr. Park has found evidence that they actively eliminate species that refuse their control. Admiral Kim Dong-woo leaned forward. How certain are you of this? Not certain enough to bet humanity's survival on it, Wu Taimin admitted, but certain enough to recommend that we prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Kim Dong-woo nodded. Good. Because we've been preparing for something like this for 10 years. The Admiral activated a holographic display showing military installations hidden throughout the solar system. When we first detected alien signals, we started the Deep Defense Project. We've been building weapons and defenses that use principles the aliens might not expect. Engineer Lee Min-ho had been studying the alien technology they encountered. Admiral, I've been analyzing their systems. They're incredibly advanced, but they follow very rigid rules. All their technology seems designed for control rather than innovation. What does that mean? President Cho asked. It means they might not be ready for truly creative solutions, Lee Min-ho explained. Their whole civilization seems built on preventing change and stopping innovation. They might not know how to deal with species that think outside their established patterns. While these meetings continued on Earth, Dr. Park So-young received an encrypted message on a frequency that shouldn't have existed. The message came from someone calling themselves Friend of Truth. The message was simple. If you want to know what really happened to the extinct species, meet me at coordinates 127.489 in 3 days. Come alone. Tell no one. Park So-young stared at the message. The coordinates were for a location in empty space, 3 light-years from Earth. It would be incredibly dangerous to go there alone. But if there was a chance to learn the truth about the council, she had to take it. She told Captain Wu Taimin about the message. It's obviously a trap, he said. Maybe, she replied. But what if it's not? What if there's someone out there who knows the truth about what the council really does? You're not going alone. The message specifically said to come alone. If we bring a military escort, we'll learn nothing. Wu Taimin thought for a long moment. Take a stealth probe. Something small that can follow you at a distance. If something goes wrong, at least we'll know what happened. 3 days later, Park So-young piloted a small research ship to the coordinates. The location was empty space, but her sensors detected a cloaked vessel nearby. A new voice came over her communication system. Dr. Park So-young of Terra. I am Rick Zanda, former keeper of council records. I have information your species needs. The alien ship decloaked. It was smaller than a council vessel, but clearly built with their technology. A figure appeared on Park So-young's view screen. It looked like a tall, thin humanoid, with pale silver skin and large dark eyes. Why are you helping us? Park So-young asked. Because I have seen what the council really does to independent species, Rick Zanda replied. I spent 300 years maintaining their historical records. I know the truth they hide. What truth? Though, Council does not simply wait for dangerous species to destroy themselves. They help the process along. They provide weapons to warlike species knowing it will lead to civil war. They introduce plagues to worlds that develop too quickly. They destabilize stars near species that become too advanced. Park So-young felt cold. They're murderers. They call it galactic gardening, Rixanda said bitterly. They remove species that might threaten their perfect order. But your species has confused them. Humans don't follow the patterns they expect. What do you mean? Most species that refuse Council protection become more violent and aggressive. They fight among themselves or attack other species. But humans have done the opposite. Since first contact, your planet has become more united than ever before. Your governments are cooperating instead of competing. This is not supposed to happen. Rixanda transmitted a data package to Park So-young's ship. This contains the real records of what happened to extinct species. You will see the truth. But you must also know that the Council is already planning to eliminate humanity. They cannot allow a species that breaks their patterns to survive. How much time do we have? Less than you think. The 30-day ultimatum is a formality. Council enforcement fleets are already moving toward your solar system. They will arrive in 20 days. What can we do? I do not know, Rixanda admitted. No species has ever successfully resisted the Council, but perhaps humans will find a way that no one else has considered. Park So-young returned to Earth with the data package. The evidence was overwhelming. The Council had systematically murdered hundreds of species over thousands of years. Any species that showed independence or innovation was eliminated through artificial disasters made to look natural. We have 20 days, she reported to the Emergency Leadership Council. The Council fleets are already coming. Admiral Kim Dong-woo stood up. Then it's time to activate the Terran Protocol. What's the Terran Protocol? President Cho asked. Our plan for fighting a war we can't win, Kim Dong-woo replied. We're going to do something the Council has never seen before. We're going to invite them to surrender. Admiral Kim Dong-woo led the Emergency Council to a hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. The elevator descended for 10 minutes through solid rock before opening into a vast underground complex. Hundreds of scientists and engineers worked at stations throughout the facility. Welcome to Project Terran, Kim Dong-woo announced. For 10 years, we've been preparing for the possibility that first contact would not go well. President Cho Yoon-ji looked around in amazement. How long has this been operational? Since we first detected organized alien signals, the Admiral replied. We hoped for peace, but we prepared for war. Dr. Kang Soo-bin, the project's lead scientist, approached the group. She was a small woman with intense eyes who spoke very quickly when excited. Admiral, the quantum resonance tests were successful. We can now manipulate space-time in localized areas without the massive energy requirements we originally calculated. In simple terms, please, President Cho requested. We've learned how to break the rules of physics in small areas, Kang Soo-bin explained. We can make things happen that should be impossible. Engineer Lee Min-ho had been examining the alien technology samples they brought back from Nexus Prime. Dr. Kang, I think I understand how their systems work. They use quantum field manipulation, but they follow very strict mathematical rules. They can't imagine technology that doesn't follow those rules. Show them the paradox engine, Admiral Kim said. Dr. Kang led them to a chamber containing what looked like a metal sphere surrounded by spinning rings. Energy flowed between the rings in patterns that hurt to look at directly. This device can create localized space-time anomalies, she explained. We can make events happen in the wrong order. We can make one object exist in multiple places at the same time. We can even make effects happen before their causes. Captain Wu Taemin stared at the machine. What's the military application? We can attack enemies before they know we exist, Lee Min-ho said. We can defend positions that haven't been built yet. We can supply troops with equipment from battles that haven't happened. It sounds impossible, Dr. Park So-young said. That's the point, Admiral Kim replied. The Council has spent 50,000 years developing ways to counter every type of warfare they've ever seen. But they've never seen warfare that ignores causality. President Cho looked thoughtful. What's our plan? We're going to accept the Council's ultimatum, Kim Dong-woo said. Everyone stared at him in shock. "Admiral, that's surrender," Commander Yoon Haijin protested. "No, it's strategy," he replied. "We're going to invite the Council leadership to Earth for a formal surrender ceremony. We'll tell them that humanity has seen the wisdom of Council protection and wants to submit peacefully." "They'll never believe that," Wu Taemin said. "They will, because it fits their expectations," Dr. Park So-young realized. Rixanda said humans were confusing them by not following normal patterns. "But surrender is a normal pattern. They'll expect it?" "Exactly," Kim Dong-woo confirmed. "The Council leaders will come to Earth expecting to witness humanity's peaceful submission. Instead, they'll witness the beginning of the galaxy's first temporal war." Over the next 10 days, Earth's governments worked frantically to prepare. President Cho sent a message to the Council, accepting their protection and requesting a formal ceremony on Earth. The Council was pleased by humanity's wise decision and agreed to send their high command to witness the historic event. Meanwhile, engineer Lee Min-ho led teams to install paradox engines throughout the solar system. These devices would allow human forces to coordinate attacks across multiple timelines simultaneously. Dr. Kang Soo-bin worked with alien defectors like Rixanda to identify Council control nodes throughout the galaxy. These were the critical installations that maintained Council power over their member species. Commander Yoon Haijin trained Special Forces teams in temporal combat techniques. Soldiers learned how to fight battles where cause and effect didn't follow normal rules. "The key is not thinking linearly," she explained to her troops. "In normal combat, you shoot first and the enemy dies second. In temporal combat, the enemy might die before you shoot. You have to be ready for effects without causes and causes without effects." Captain Oh Ji-won led the development of the Liberation Signal. This was a quantum transmission that could be broadcast simultaneously across the entire galaxy, carrying both information and technology blueprints to oppressed species. "We're not just fighting for Earth," she explained to her team. "We're fighting to free every species the Council has enslaved. The signal will tell them the truth about Council oppression and give them the tools to fight back." Dr. Nam Ye-jin solved the problem of galactic coordination. Using modified Council technology, she created a communication network that could operate outside normal space-time. This would allow the rebellion to coordinate across thousands of light-years instantaneously. "The Council controls the galaxy by controlling information," she explained. "They decide what each species knows about the others. Our network will break that control completely." As the Council fleet approached Earth, Admiral Kim Dong-woo made final preparations. The surrender ceremony was scheduled to take place in Geneva, with representatives from every Earth nation present. The Council ships would land in designated areas, bringing their leadership within range of Earth's hidden weapons. "Remember," he told his command staff, "this only works if they believe we're really surrendering. Everyone must play their part perfectly until the moment we strike." The Council fleet was impressive. 12 massive ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, each one larger than a city. They landed in the prepared areas, and alien delegations emerged to begin the ceremony. Councillor Velthar led the alien delegation. The crystal being's light pulsed with satisfaction as it approached the podium where President Cho waited. "People of Terra," Velthar announced, "today marks the beginning of a new era for your species. Under Council protection, you will know peace and prosperity for generations to come." President Cho stepped forward. "Honored Councillor, the people of Earth are grateful for your wisdom and protection. We formally accept Council authority over our world." The ceremony proceeded exactly as planned. Earth's leaders signed documents transferring authority to the Council. Alien officials took control of key installations. The Council's enforcement teams began deploying throughout major cities. But in hidden facilities around the world, human teams waited for the signal to begin humanity's real response to the Council's ultimatum. "All teams, this is Admiral Kim," came the coded transmission. "The surrender is complete. The Council leadership is on Earth. All their major ships are within our defensive perimeter." He paused, then spoke the words that would change the galaxy forever. "Initiate Terran Protocol. All units, you are cleared to begin temporal warfare. Show them what happens when humans say no." Across Earth and throughout the solar system, paradox engines activated simultaneously. Space-time began to bend in ways the Council had never imagined possible. The war for galactic freedom was about to begin. and it would be fought with weapons that treated the impossible as merely inconvenient. The Council had demanded Earth's surrender. But humanity's real answer was just beginning. The moment Admiral Kim Dong-woo gave the signal, reality began to break around Earth. The paradox engines created bubbles of twisted space-time where normal rules didn't apply. Inside these bubbles, human forces could move faster than light without ships, communicate across impossible distances instantly, and strike at targets that existed in different time periods. Counselor Velthar was in the middle of accepting Earth's surrender documents when the first impossible thing happened. The human soldier standing guard behind President Cho suddenly wasn't there anymore. Then he was there again, but now he was holding a weapon that had appeared from nowhere. "What is this?" Velthar demanded, its crystal body flashing with alarm. "This is humanity's real answer to your ultimatum," President Cho replied calmly. She was no longer the submissive leader who had signed surrender papers moments before. "We don't surrender. We liberate." The crystal being tried to activate its personal shields, but the device flickered and failed. Dr. Kang Soo-bin had predicted this. Council technology followed strict rules about cause and effect. When those rules were broken, their systems couldn't function properly. Around the ceremony area, more impossible things began happening. Council enforcement officers found their weapons targeting their own allies. Their communication devices broadcast human liberation signals instead of Council orders. Their transport vehicles suddenly contained human soldiers who had somehow been inside them all along. "Alert all ships," Velthar commanded. "The humans are using some form of unknown technology." But the alert never reached the Council fleet. Captain Ojiwan and her teams had already infiltrated the ships using temporal insertion techniques. They appeared inside the vessel's most secure areas, carrying equipment that had been manufactured in the future and delivered to the past. On the bridge of the Council flagship, Commander Thaxler found himself face-to-face with a human woman who hadn't been there a second earlier. "How did you get on my ship?" he demanded. "I've been here for 3 hours," Captain O replied. "You just hadn't noticed yet." The alien commander tried to understand what was happening, but human soldiers were already taking control of critical systems. They moved through the ship like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. Similar scenes played out on every Council vessel. The aliens had prepared for conventional warfare, boarding actions, and even exotic energy weapons. They had not prepared for enemies who could exist in multiple places at once or who could attack yesterday from tomorrow. But the real shock came when the liberation signal began broadcasting. Dr. Nam Yejin had positioned herself at the Council's primary communication relay. Using their own equipment against them, she sent the liberation signal across every Council communication channel simultaneously. The signal carried a simple message in hundreds of languages. The Council lies. They are not protectors. They are conquerors. Fight back. Along with the message came technical specifications for building resistance weapons, detailed records of Council atrocities, and instructions for disrupting Council control systems. The signal reached Council-controlled worlds across the galaxy in real time, thanks to the quantum communication network. On planets that had been under Council rule for thousands of years, populations suddenly learned the truth about their protectors. On the world of Keth Prime, the descendants of the Kethron people received proof that the Council had deliberately caused the reactor accident that nearly destroyed their species. Within hours, they were building weapons from the technical plans included in the liberation signal. On Molvos, the surviving Molvari learned that their plague had been artificially created by Council scientists. They immediately began producing the cure that the liberation signal provided. Across hundreds of worlds, species that had lived under Council control for millennia suddenly remembered what freedom meant. They began sabotaging Council installations, disrupting communication networks, and attacking enforcement troops. But the Council's greatest shock came when they realized the scope of humanity's strategy. This wasn't just an attack on Earth's Council garrison. It was a simultaneous assault on Council power throughout the entire galaxy. General Park Hyun-sik commanded the temporal strike teams attacking Council control nodes. These installations were located on different worlds, separated by thousands of light years. Under normal circumstances, it would take decades to coordinate attacks across such distances. But human forces weren't operating under normal circumstances. Using the paradox engines, they could synchronize attacks across space and time. Strike teams would arrive at their targets before they had left Earth, attack facilities that hadn't been built yet, and retreat to times when the Council forces weren't even there. Control Node 7 is down, reported Lieutenant Colonel Lee Dayun from the Rigel system. We hit their main power core yesterday and their backup generators next week. Control Node 15 is neutralized, came another report from Commander Yoon Sung-ho in the Vega sector. Their defensive systems are fighting battles that haven't happened yet. Within 6 hours of the Liberation Signal's broadcast, over 300 Council control nodes across the galaxy had been destroyed or captured. The Council's communication network was in chaos. Their enforcement fleets found themselves fighting rebellions on dozens of worlds simultaneously. Back on Earth, Councillor Velthar watched its civilization crumble in real time. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Species that had been peaceful for thousands of years were suddenly in open revolt. Council worlds that had never experienced violence were now battlegrounds. This is impossible, the crystal being said to President Cho. No species can coordinate attacks across the entire galaxy. The distances are too great. The timing is too complex. You're thinking linearly, she replied. Humans don't always think linearly. Admiral Kim Dong-woo joined the conversation. Counselor, for 50,000 years you've maintained power by controlling information and eliminating threats. But you made one critical error. You assumed that all species would follow the same patterns you've seen before. Your error was thinking that humanity would be like every other species you've conquered, President Cho added. We're not. Velthar's crystal body dimmed as more reports arrived. The entire Council civilization was under attack, not just by humans, but by hundreds of species that had been under Council control. The Liberation Signal had triggered the largest rebellion in galactic history. What do you want? The Council leader finally asked. We want every species to be free to choose their own path, Admiral Kim replied. We want an end to the Council's forced peace. We want a galaxy where diversity and innovation are celebrated instead of crushed. That will lead to chaos, Velthar protested. Without central control, species will fight each other. They will destroy themselves with their own violence. Maybe, President Cho admitted, but that's their choice to make. Freedom includes the freedom to make mistakes. Dr. Park So-young had been monitoring the galactic situation from her command post. Admiral, we're receiving surrender offers from 47 Council installations. They're asking for terms. And the resistance movements? Kim asked. Over 200 species have declared independence from Council rule. They're requesting technical assistance and mutual defense agreements. Captain Wu Taemin looked at the tactical displays showing the state of the galaxy. In less than 12 hours, humanity had transformed from a single threatened world into the catalyst for galactic revolution. Counselor Velthar, he said to the crystal being, your civilization isn't evil. You genuinely believed you were protecting the galaxy from chaos. But protection that comes through force isn't really protection. It's just another form of conquest. What happens now? Velthar asked. Now we build something new, Admiral Kim replied. A galaxy where species cooperate by choice instead of fear. Where innovation is encouraged instead of suppressed, where peace comes from understanding, not submission. The crystal being's light pulsed slowly. And if we refuse? Then you'll discover what happens when humans really get angry, President Cho said quietly. So far, this has been us being polite. Across the galaxy, the impossible war continued. Human forces moved through time and space like living paradoxes, liberating worlds that had never known freedom and teaching oppressed species to fight for themselves. The Council's perfect order was collapsing, but something new was being born in its place, something chaotic and unpredictable and alive with possibility. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the Liberation Signal changed everything, Captain Wu Taemin stood on the observation deck of Nexus Prime. The massive space station looked very different now. Where once there had been rigid order and fearful silence, now there was controlled chaos and the sound of dozens of species arguing, laughing, and working together. The station had become the center of the new Free Galaxy Alliance. Instead of a ruling council that made decisions for everyone, there was now a Congress where each species sent representatives to discuss mutual concerns. The meetings were loud, messy, and often confusing. They were also more productive than the old council had ever been. Admiral Wu called Ambassador Lee Dae-yun as she approached. She had been Earth's first representative to the new alliance, helping forge the agreements that replaced the Council's authoritarian rule. The Kethran delegation wants to speak with you about the mining rights dispute. Wu Taemin smiled. Still arguing over asteroid mining in the Rigel system? The Kethran claim they have historical rights to the asteroids because their ancestors lived in that system before the Council relocated them. The Molvari say they have current rights because they're the ones who developed the mining technology. The Zeftari want to mediate because they think both sides are being stupid. What's your recommendation? Let them argue for another week, then suggest they form a joint mining company and split the profits 3 ways. They'll think it's a brilliant compromise. This was how most problems got solved in the new galaxy. Instead of the Council making decisions and enforcing them, species worked out their own agreements through negotiation and compromise. It was slower and messier than the old system, but it was also more fair and more stable. Admiral Yoon Seung-ho approached from the other direction. He commanded the first truly integrated multi-species fleet in galactic history. Ships from dozens of different species worked together, sharing technology and tactics. Admiral Wu, we've got the exploration mission ready to launch, he reported. 12 ships, 8 different species heading for the galactic rim to see what's out there. Any problems with the integrated crews? The usual language barriers and cultural misunderstandings. The Kethran engineer thinks the Molvari navigator is reckless. The Molvari navigator thinks the Kethran engineer is too cautious. The human medic thinks they're both crazy. And the solution? They're learning to work together. Turns out that when people have to cooperate to survive, they find ways to make it work. This had been one of the most surprising developments since the liberation. With the Council's enforced peace gone, many had expected massive wars between species. Instead, most conflicts were being resolved through negotiation and trade agreements. Species were discovering that cooperation was more profitable than conquest. Dr. Park So-young had spent the past 6 months studying this phenomenon. She approached the group with her latest research tablet. I think I understand why the post-liberation galaxy is more peaceful than anyone expected, she announced. The Council's system actually created more conflict than it prevented. How so? Wu Taemin asked. Under Council rule, species were isolated from each other. They could only interact through Council mediators. This created fear and misunderstanding. Species thought of each other as strangers or threats. She activated a holographic display showing trade routes and diplomatic connections. But when species can interact directly, they discover shared interests and mutual benefits. The Kethran energy technology works perfectly with Molvari navigation systems. The Zeftari have materials that both species need, and both species have knowledge the Zeftari want. So freedom creates cooperation? Ambassador Lee asked. Freedom creates the opportunity for cooperation, Park So-young corrected. The Council's system made cooperation impossible because everything had to go through them. Now species can work together directly. Engineer Lee Min-ho had been busy since the liberation, helping newly freed species adapt human temporal technology for peaceful purposes. He arrived at the group looking excited about his latest project. The Rigel colonies just finished their first temporal construction project, he announced. They're building a space station that will exist in multiple time periods simultaneously. Workers can start construction in the past, continue in the present, and finish in the future. Is that safe? Wu Taemin asked. Safer than conventional construction in dangerous environments. If something goes wrong, they can just shift the construction to a different time period where the danger doesn't exist. This was typical of how human technology was spreading through the galaxy. Instead of weapons and conquest, humans were sharing innovations that made life better for everyone. The temporal manipulation technology that had won the war was now being used to solve problems that had seemed impossible under the old system. Dr. Kang Soo-bin had established the Galactic Innovation Institute, where scientists from dozens of species worked together to develop new technologies. The institute was located on a former council world that had been converted into a research center. We've had 17 major breakthroughs this month, she reported during the weekly intelligence briefing. Faster-than-light communication without council relay stations. Medical technology that works on multiple species. Energy systems that are 90% more efficient than anything the council ever developed. Why the sudden burst of innovation? Admiral Yoon asked. Because we have species working together who never could before. The Kethran understand energy in ways that complement Molvari mathematics. The Zeftari have intuitive grasp of dimensional physics that fills gaps in human theories. When you combine different approaches to the same problems, you get solutions no one could reach alone. The former counselor Velthar had requested a meeting with the human leadership. The crystal being had been living quietly on Earth since the liberation, studying human culture and trying to understand what had happened to its civilization. I have reached a conclusion about the events of 6 months ago, it announced when the meeting began. The council was wrong. About what specifically? President Cho asked. About everything, Velthar replied. We believed that order was more important than freedom. We believed that peace required control. We believed that diversity led to chaos. We were wrong about all of it. The crystal being's light pulsed slowly as it continued. Your species has proven that freedom can create better order than force. That real peace comes from cooperation, not submission. That diversity makes civilization stronger, not weaker. What will you do now? Wu Taimin asked. I have asked to join the Alliance as a representative of the reformed Council worlds. Many of my people want to learn new ways of living. We offer our knowledge and experience in exchange for the chance to be part of something better than what we built. And the other former Council members? Some accept the new reality and want to participate. Others have retreated to isolated worlds where they can maintain their old ways. A few are actively hostile and may cause problems in the future. This was one of the ongoing challenges of the new galaxy. While most species had embraced their freedom, some preferred the old system of enforced order. These holdout groups occasionally attacked Alliance ships or tried to sabotage cooperative projects, but the Alliance had learned to deal with such problems. Through rapid response teams led by experienced human commanders, Captain Ojiwan had organized these teams, drawing personnel from species throughout the galaxy. We had another incident in the Outer Rim, she reported. Former Council loyalists attacked a trade convoy, but the convoy's escorts included ships from 4 different species, all using integrated defense systems. The attackers were captured within minutes. Any casualties? Admiral Yoon asked. 3 minor injuries, all treated immediately with the new universal medical technology. The attackers are being held for trial under Alliance law. The development of Alliance law had been one of the most complex challenges since liberation. How do you create legal systems that work for hundreds of different species with completely different cultures and values? The solution had been typically human. Instead of trying to create one law for everyone, they created a framework that allowed each species to maintain their own laws while establishing common rules for interspecies interactions. Judge Nam Yejin had led the legal working group. It's like a giant treaty between hundreds of sovereign nations, she explained. Each species governs its own people according to its own traditions. But when species interact with each other, they follow agreed-upon alliance protocols. Does it work? President Cho asked. Better than anyone expected. Species are actually more careful about following the rules when they helped create them. As the first year of the Free Galaxy Alliance approached, humanity found itself in an unexpected position. They had become the galaxy's troubleshooters and mediators, not because they sought power, but because other species trusted their ability to find creative solutions to impossible problems. We're the species other species call when something's broken, and they can't figure out how to fix it. Admiral Kim Dong-woo observed during a strategy meeting. Is that what we want to be? President Cho asked. It's what we are, Captain Wu replied. The galaxy's chaos agents,